go. Okay, broadcasting.
Wow. Hey, yeah, we're live. We're letting folks into the Zoom meeting. I see we've already got one attendee. That's awesome. I'm Becca White. I'm a community engagement manager with Efficiency Vermont. And today we've got Cara from VEEP, and we're going to be doing a presentation on weatherization curriculum for middle school and high school students. So if you're jumping on right now, I see the attendees number going up. Look at that. We're not live on Facebook yet, but I thought I'd start off as we kill a little bit of time as we have people join. Daniel's setting it up so we can go live on Facebook too. But here's my joke. Why did the pirate add insulation to his walls?
I bet it's something about R value.
Exactly. He wanted to increase his R value. So, yes.
Great joke, Becca. I love it.
If you have any good weatherization jokes, I'm all ears as we start to have folks enter the Zoom meeting before we go live.
I didn't know that was a requirement, but
I know, I
beef up on my weatherization jokes.
Did prep you on this one.
No.
Oh gosh, that's funny. And yeah, I love that we see a bunch of folks joining. This is great. And we've got that first slide up.
We're close here.
So close. Oh, there we go. Oh, we saw a nice stock photo there for a moment. Very nice.
Yes, just a view of summer. Accidental view of summer.
And we were actually talking before folks started joining the Zoom. Thank you so much for being here, not only to learn about weatherization curriculum, but on a beautiful day.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, we will be recording this, so if you are attending or maybe you're watching the recording right now, thank you for doing that as well. But we'll get started in a couple minutes as we go live on Facebook. I've actually got my handy dandy button up button. I've got my red scarf. So, oh, I think I just saw something say we're live on Facebook. So take it away, Daniel.
Thanks for your patience, everyone. So excited to have everybody with us today. Thank you for spending a little time with us. Just a reminder that on our Button Up Vermont website, there are a ton of other events listed. So if you are still looking for other information on weatherization, there's going to be a lot of other cool opportunities coming up, taking on subjects exactly like what we're doing today with thinking about weatherization curriculum and teaching weatherization skills. So go to buttonupvermont.org/events. I'll put a link in the chat for that. And I'll also put it on our Facebook Live feed. And there's also a newsletter in case you want to get updates in your email about upcoming events. We'll put a link to that as well where you can subscribe if you'd like. So glad to have Cara from VEEP joining us today to talk about the education side of weatherization and how we can bring that into our schools. VEEP has been around for about 40 years now, since people were lining up in long lines at gas stations during the oil embargo, when I think a lot of modern US woke up to the reality of their dependence on oil is fragile and possibly really risky for a number of reasons. And at that time, some folks in the Vermont's Department of Education decided, hey, we should really be thinking about how do we teach energy issues and sustainability within our school system, and came together to form VEEP. And Cara is leading up the modern version of that has been now in working with schools to some extent in Vermont, about 100 this year, and over time I think has been involved with 3/4 of our schools throughout the state, and also has branched on into New Hampshire with VEEP. So I'm going to turn it over to Cara here, and as we're going, Cara's got a presentation. We'll have questions after. You're welcome to put in questions if you're on the Zoom in the Q&A. And we'll get to those at the end. If you're on Facebook Live, put questions in the comments. We'll either answer questions directly in text, or we'll ask them to Cara to explain. And anybody who hangs on towards the end, we'll talk about if you're interested in borrowing infrared camera for yourself to check out the cold spots in your home, or maybe think about taking some of the curriculum that Cara's going to talk about in with your kids. This is an opportunity to bring that camera in to do that. So hang on till the end and we'll give you details on that. Becky, anything else we want to announce?
No, you got it, Daniel. Thank you so much, Cara, for being here. I'm really looking forward to this.
Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you all. And thanks for the folks who have joined us on this beautiful day. So I'm going to give a quick overview, a little bit more of an overview of VEEP, sort of what we do, and spend a bit of time showing you our middle school weatherization curriculum, and then talking about some of the other ways that we engage in weatherization activities. So VEEP, as Daniel mentioned, we've expanded into New Hampshire as well. So although this program is specifically about Button Up Vermont, we do support schools in New Hampshire with energy education as well as here in Vermont. And this graphic shows the scale of the work that we've done over a 5-year period. The graphic is actually over a year old. So it's not, the data is not exact, but it shows approximately how many schools we work in a 5-year period. We have worked in most of the schools in Vermont over the last 5 or 6 years. And doing that in a bunch of different ways, basically trying to make sure that students have access to good quality hands-on STEM education, science, technology, engineering, and math education, particularly in the energy sphere. And this is how we accomplish that. These are the 11 wonderful folks that I get to work with who do energy education in all of the different regions of Vermont and New Hampshire. So real quick overview of what I was planning on running through today. I would like to share with you just quickly how VEEP traditionally works in schools with workshops and teacher professional development and the sorts of equipment that we can share with schools. And then I want to go in detail into some of our new remote learning resources that were brought about because of COVID, and that we have very different opportunities this year. We can work with students directly in their schools. And we'll briefly look at the high school, some of our high school offerings as well, and other programs like our Youth Climate Leaders Academy. So that is the plan for the next 10 or 15 minutes. So in a traditional and normal year, we spend a lot of time working in schools, going into classrooms, kindergarten through 12th grade, and working with students. You can see some pictures here. We do a lot of really hands-on work. That's really important to us, that students get the opportunity to interact with materials, to do explorations, to not just sit at their desks and listen to information. And we also do a lot of teacher professional development, with the idea that when we get to teach and work with teachers, they are then able to work much more deeply with their students on the energy curriculum. And we have very, very extensive science equipment kits around energy. So you can see a slide that shows that there are, it shows one of these kits. The kits can be 1, 2, 5, 6 bins full of equipment that the teachers can use to teach about energy in a hands-on way, and we've unpacked one of the kits, and there's a picture of that as well, with all of the equipment sitting on the table. So lots and lots of equipment going into schools so that teachers can teach their students about energy in hands-on ways. So one of the things that happened this year is that COVID-19 changed everything for schools overnight, and suddenly the students were learning from home. You all know this story. You've been living it for the last 6 months. And VEEP designed some remote learning resources to be used by students when they were at home. And then as this school year has started, the schools are all across the board in terms of how they are engaging their students. They're doing it, some of them are doing it completely online, some are doing it completely in person, many are doing a hybrid, and the ones that are in person or hybrid know that they may have to go to online overnight, as has already happened at a couple of, well, at least at CrossFit, well, no, CrossFit Book and Burlington have both gone to some unexpected work learning from home. So we have designed a whole bunch of different resources that can be used learning from home. And the one we're going to look at right now is home heat transfer or weatherization or button-up lessons at the 6th to 8th grade level. So the students are doing a lot of things online, and our goal here is to have them do components of this learning both online and offline. And this is how the students would access it. It's actually accessed through a Google Slides program, like a Google PowerPoint program, where the students interact with the materials through the slides, and they actually type in their responses, their answers through the slides, and they can do interactive activities, and the teacher sees their work and can assess it through Google. A lot of the classes are using Google Classroom for this. So at the middle school level, our focus question for all of these lessons is, how can you help to use less energy to heat your home and still stay warm and cozy all winter? And so I'll walk you through what some of these lessons look like, and I'm not going to walk you through the entire thing, but give you sort of an idea of the sorts of activities that they're doing and how that works. So going through all of these lessons, in the first lesson, they're going to investigate how homes are heated, which most students have never looked at. This slide has a lot of words on it that I would not normally put on a PowerPoint, but this is exactly what the students see. They're asked, where does your home heat come from? And they're asked to stand up from their computer and walk outside and walk around their house and go in the basement and try to figure out where's the heat coming from and how's it getting around their house. So before we can talk about weatherization or buttoning up, we want them to think about the heat itself and where it's coming from. And then we're going to ask them to come in and actually draw all of that into a model. And they're going to have a pretty incomplete understanding at this point. Probably most adults, that if we ask them to draw where the heat comes into your house and how it gets around, would have a pretty incomplete understanding of that as well. So they're going to start with that. And we show them an example of what this might look like, what they might do. They could also draw this, and take a picture of it and upload it. And then we're going to have them think about this in writing. What fuel is used to heat your home? Is something burned? How does it get around your house? And then they can start to analyze the efficiency and the carbon emissions and the financial cost of the way that they're heating their home. And then they're going to go on to the second lesson, in which they're going to be looking at how the heat is moved through their home. And they will reflect on what they already know about convection, conduction, and radiation. And we have some interactive things so that they can sort of, in this slide, they're going to think about, okay, what's the definition and what's an example of these? And they actually move the boxes around so that they're interacting with the materials in a different way other than just reading and writing. And then they're also going to have an opportunity to really reflect on convection, conduction, and radiation, which is what they're supposed to be doing at this grade level. And they're going to go back to that initial model that they drew of their house, and they're going to add in these things. So now we've thought about convection, conduction, and radiation, and now I can think about how those relate to the heating of my house. And I'm going to add those into my house model. And then we share with them an experiment that we've done where we're looking at different houses that have different amount of air sealing and different amount of weatherization. We're putting a heat source in there, and we're graphing the heat through time and how well the different model houses retain heat. And they are going to look at this graph, and they're going to try to figure out which house goes with which of these lines on the graph. So they're starting to use that knowledge to assess different houses. Then they're going to go on and look at, start to design do their own engineering project and look at materials that are good at slowing down heat transfer. So again, coming back to conduction, convection, and radiation. And then we have them actually look at some different insulating materials and a microscope a picture under a microscope of that same material, so they can start to see, okay, what sorts of things help to trap heat that we might want to use for weatherization. And then they start to create their own model. So they're going to go around their house and they're going to collect different materials that could be good insulators. They're going to take some pictures of those and they'll share them on the slideshow with their teacher. And they'll sort of start to think about, well, why did I choose this material? And that they'll write about those materials. And then they're going to test their materials. So they're actually going to take something that has heat. Hopefully they'll have a heating pad or a hot water bottle, or even a bowl of warm water and a hair dryer. And they'll start to test these materials to see how well they hold up against heat and cold, and how much the heat is transferring through these materials. And they'll assess them and use these arrows on a scale to say, okay, well, the towel, that was pretty good insulated, the plastic bag wasn't so good. They'll add all of their different materials and sort of be able to manipulate these arrows on a graph to show how well different things insulate. They will make claims using evidence and reasoning. So this is one of the big things we want students to be able to do. Actually, I'd love all of society to be really good at making a claim about something using both evidence and reasoning. So we're letting them practice that skill in terms of insulation in this case. And then again, manipulating, okay, how are we using the terms we know about heat transfer, conduction, convection, and radiation in relation to the materials that we've just tested. And then they're going to build a little model, and they're going to build a little house using a small container, and they're going to test the temperature and see how much the temperature goes down over time if they put some heat in this container. And then they'll start to engineer it. They'll add insulating materials. They'll see how much they can slow down that heat transfer, and they'll do that twice. So it's iterative, and they're trying to make it better and better. So engineering challenge. Then they're going to take what they've just learned from their model, and they're going to apply that to their home. They're going to look at a real house. Okay, how might we know how energy efficient a real house is now that we've looked at all of this? And they'll look at some data that we've pulled together about how and where heat does leave our homes, and think about how we could keep that heat in. They get to watch a video that we're not going to watch right now about blower door tests and how you actually start to analyze your home. And then they will use all of these pieces they pulled together to look at their own house. And they have various options where they can go around and look at various places, checking for air leaks and figuring out where there may be opportunities for weatherization. If they have an adult, they're invited to go up in their attic and look at the weatherization that is happening there. And then at the very end, they design a project, some way to share the model and suggestions with their household and with their teacher. And so this is where they can get a little creative. They can create a brochure, a video, or an essay and share this with their family. And the hope that we have is that they will have learned enough that it will actually really make a difference for their household, because they will find that there are things that their household can do. So in addition to really understanding conduction, convection, and radiation, which is what the science standards want them to know at this age, they will also have the chance to think about their own home and how they can make it more cozy, as well as saving money and obviously helping the environment. And at the very end, they also can have an opportunity to borrow an infrared thermometer. We've talked about some folks today could borrow a infrared camera, which we also have access to, some simple infrared cameras. So they could borrow an infrared thermometer if they and their family want to do that, and they can wander around their house and do some more investigations of what's going on there. So that is what weatherization education looks like at the middle school level. And it is, that was a pretty thorough walkthrough, but that would happen over 6 lessons. So probably at least 6 different days of investigating their house and bringing things together. Becca, did someone have a question?
No, I was just going to say, I love the image you have right here because it shows exactly what you were describing using that infrared camera.
Thanks. All right, I will just really quickly talk about some of what are we doing. So that was middle school. So at the high school level, we have a green energy careers module similar to what I just showed you. I'm not going to walk you through that. As a matter of fact, it is still being finalized because all of this is new programming that we are able to offer during COVID. And again, really excited that we actually get to share these resources with families and not just with students in school. I mean, that's one of the few bright spots in what's going on right now in the world, in my opinion. But at the high school level, we really want students to be thinking about this through that jobs lens that's really becoming relevant to the high school students as they're starting to think about how they might move forward. So we're going to have them be thinking about their job prospects and what makes some jobs greener than others, and also thinking about Vermont's climate goals and like diving into those a little bit, and our energy goals and our comprehensive energy plan goals, and how that might affect what future jobs even exist and what future jobs they might want to do. And then taking a look at some of the tools and methods and considerations that people use in their jobs when they're working in efficiency careers. So that is another module very similar to the middle school one that I shared that has to do with efficiency and is designed for high schoolers to use either at home or at school or in this hybrid model that we're in right now. And we also have a Youth Climate Leaders Academy program that we love, and we are very curious to see how it all pans out this year. But for the past 3 years, we've brought together 60 to 80 high school students from around both states, actually both Vermont and New Hampshire, but mainly from Vermont. And these students have committed to doing some bigger projects through the year, and some of those have related to weatherization. And it's been really amazing to watch high school students and how much they really want to see change happening and are willing to put in the time and effort to do that. So we have an intern we're very excited about who's going to be helping us figure out this program, who just graduated from high school and decided to take a year off rather than going virtually to college to start. So we will be revamping this program. Normally we get all the students together in one place for 2 days to get started, and we won't be able to do that this year, but we're still planning on helping students to do climate related projects. And some of these students gain either high school or even college credit. We've been able to offer it as a dual enrollment course for students who want to get college credit for this program as well. And my second last and almost final point is, again, back to our staff. We have a staff of 11, and all of our staff are really excited to be energy teaching partners to support teachers, whether they want to do something like the curriculum that I shared earlier, or however they want to address weatherization or other energy education in their classroom. Having another human who is really well-versed in energy education can be very helpful to both teachers and students. It often comes down to human beings, really, when it comes right down to it. So all of our resources are available at our website, which is veep.org, and I would welcome people to go and look at that and get in touch and explore the curriculum that's there and the equipment kits that we have and our teacher professional development, which we are doing a lot of. It's virtual now, but we're doing a lot of that, and we'd welcome any questions either as well. So that is my presentation, and I would love to chat about any questions you have.
Cara, thanks so much. That was so great. I was wondering, and again, folks who have joined us since the beginning, we welcome any questions. If you're on Zoom, put it in the Q&A. If you're on Facebook Live, feel free to put a question in the comments. We'll try to get it answered for you. Cara, I was thinking about the fact that I, in middle school and high school, went through the steps of learning conduction and all the physics of how heat transfers. And that was the extent of it. And I'm so excited that people are actually like learning the stuff that it took me into my 20s and 30s before I actually like came around to saying like, oh, right, this is how it works in my home. And I just missed out on decades of saving money for all the heat that I didn't understand, or heat loss that I didn't understand. So I was wondering if if you have been involved in the administration of any of this curriculum in schools, or have just heard stories about like what are kids finding when they go through something like what you described? What are they like reporting back from their exploration of their own homes?
An excellent question. Because in the past, most of our work has happened in schools, they weren't able to do this sort of exploration of their home. So this is what we're very, very excited about, and also why I was excited to be able to share this on this event, because this is really new that they are going to use their own home for this, and it's really part of this moment that has been brought about by COVID, where a lot of students are learning from home. So my expectation is the majority of students who use this will use this in the winter. That's when teachers generally teach heat transfer. It fits very well with button up. But the timing's not great for the button up campaign, but for buttoning up your home, it's a great time to be looking at that and looking for drafts and everything. So I don't have a lot of feedback because it's brand spanking new.
That's so cool. And I've got my little winter house behind me. So for anyone who's thinking about it, it might not be buttoning up season in like the dead of winter, but it actually matters when you've got snow on the ground.
I know, it's nice. You don't have any icicles on that house. It looks very well weatherized.
I know, I was looking at the home you had earlier at the yellow house and was like, can I see any heat loss spots?
Yep.
So I have a question, but Daniel, go ahead. Okay, I was just going to ask, so you've got some great resources on the website. Is that the right place for folks to go if they're trying to find materials for either themselves, maybe they're homeschooling, or if they're a teacher? And I don't know if you want to talk any more about the resources you have on the site itself that might be relevant.
Yeah, sure. I could actually go live to that website. Absolutely. So there's a lot of information here. We have things sort of broken down for teachers and for students. There's other things happening, you know, for a homeschool family. We have started this new virtual STEM lab program, which actually there isn't anything populated there because we're just in the process of getting that up. But by mid to late October, we're going to be offering groups of students an opportunity to do virtual learning together over several weeks. So that will be a really fun program for folks who are looking for something like that. We do have all of our new remote learning options linked from our front home page. And they are also still being populated because this is, you know, all new. We're taking things we've already done, but we're presenting them in completely different ways than we have in the past. I'm not sure if I answered your question, but I answered some question.
You nailed it. And I would say, and I see Daniel just put your website link in the chat. Great. And what I like here is that you've got kind of the range of what ages would be appropriate for this, for the different pieces you've got here.
Yeah, the grades by grade.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, and yeah, your actual question, now that I think about it, your actual question was how would people engage with this? So going to the website is a great place to start, but also chatting with us in person. Our educators are all available to talk with folks, whether they're homeschool families or teachers, and we do a lot of work with teachers in a traditional year, and I expect that we will continue to do that in this year to help them figure out how they want to integrate all of this in their curriculum. We can do virtual drop-ins, do virtual programming, you know, virtual presentations with students this year.
Wow.
So we're just very flexible because every teacher is in a different place, and every district is, you know, school is appearing very differently everywhere this year, and there's a lot of unknowns. So what we'd like to do is make the teaching as easy as possible so that the teacher can focus really on their students. That's always the case, but especially this year.
That's such an incredible service that you offer. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for supporting us.
We did have a question just come in about how you do outreach and one or who you specifically work with. So somebody was asking, do you work with parents to reach students or just through teachers?
Yeah, thanks. Traditionally, we've worked through teachers, and this year is different. And so there's a lot more kids who are doing homeschooling, like real homeschooling, where they're not actually connected with a school, as well as the virtual learning. So this year I expect that to look different. And those virtual STEM labs that I mentioned are specifically for out of school time. So whether that's a school that's a student who's homeschooling, or whether that's a student who is going to school hybrid, but doesn't really have enough going on and is looking for something additional. This is something they're interested in, sounds fun, you know, could be any of those, but we'll be doing similar things through schools, through teachers. This is more of the families dropping in and choosing to do something. So yes,
nice.
Both hands.
And let's say I'm on an energy committee, or I'm really engaged in my community around energy topics. How would I support VEEP and the work that you do in different communities?
It's always helpful when energy committee members want to get engaged and let schools know about what we have to offer. But the other piece is we are trying to do a lot more support of energy projects, just in general. And there are some energy committees who've really gotten it right on working with schools, and some who find that that is a hard place to get involved. And so energy committees can definitely get in touch with us and say, hey, we're working on this. Do you have contacts with the schools? And we're very happy to make those connections. It takes the right teacher who's ready and willing to step out of their comfort zone, because once you start doing real world projects, you're in the real world and you have less control over it. And it also takes an energy committee being willing to not just say, hey, we need the school to do this, but to be willing to say to the teacher, you know, there's these 3 things we're working on. Are any of those of interest? And then also be willing to sort of say, oh yeah, we can work with your time scale. You need to do this over 4 weeks. We'll like be all in over 4 weeks, or you need to stretch this out over the whole year. Yeah, we can work with that. So it takes them back and forth and finding the right person and all of those. So we are very happy to be a conduit of sort of like that communication piece. And if there are students, some of the students who've worked through our Youth Climate Leaders Academy have been working with an energy committee in their town to get something done, or when working with a school board, or, you know, there's various community groups that are really important to getting a project done, and having some youth engaged, and that energy and new thinking and everything can be really helpful as well. So yes, lots of ways that energy committees can connect. And I would say if folks are interested, to get in touch with me, and I can, and info@veep.org, and, you know, just, we can start a conversation.
Oh, that's awesome. And I love to hear that you're able to create that collaborative relationship when there's the right set of circumstances, because I definitely hear from our fabulous energy committees that they want to teach the next generation and start to get them involved, and having a partner who can help facilitate that is huge. So, you know,
and
again, thank you.
Yeah, often there are teachers who are really excited to bring real people into the classroom in a normal year. Actually, I'm going to put a plug out there. So we have several programs that are more energy action oriented, which I wasn't really addressing because this was about weatherization, but some of those projects might be weatherization. They might be in some other sphere. However, we are planning on putting together a virtual energy fair for students this fall, in which we will have students have the opportunity to talk with people who work in energy, in the energy field. And so we are just at the starting phases of figuring out who we might want to have, you know, who might want to and be willing to talk to students in that way. So if there's anyone who's listening to this who wants to get engaged in that, I'd be very interested in that as well. And again, you can reach me at info@veep.org. Pretty easy.
That is wicked cool.
Awesome. One other question came in, the question of your focus, and somebody was wondering if you're primarily focused around weatherization, or also electrification. And the example they were thinking of is like shifting from mowing your lawn from a traditional gas mower to an electric mower.
We don't have a specific example around that, but we do have a much broader focus than just weatherization. We do both look at electricity use, we look at transportation, and sometimes the projects that students come to us with fall outside of that. They're more climate related, you know, afforestation, reforestation, you know, various things that they're interested in as well. So yes, much broader than just weatherization.
Cool.
Thanks.
Well,
Again, and if anybody has any further questions out there, you can try to squeak them in, or you can, as Cara listed, info@veep.org, send any questions Cara's way, or info@buttonupvermont.org if you have any questions for the Button Up team. Becca, any other things that on your mind that we should talk through with Cara?
Feeling good. This was great. I learned something new, and I feel like I personally need to do like the middle school, high school version of this, because I'm looking at those going, oh my gosh, would I know how to do like, you know, evidence reasoning after a claim? I should probably practice that.
Yeah, you know, it's funny because we make these posters every year. We're also designing a poster right now that will go out to the schools soon, and it's going to have information on thermal, electric, and transportation energy. But we always pitch those at middle school, and we say that middle schoolers are actually the closest to adults, because you get more in depth in high school and then you forget some of that unless it becomes your field, right? So middle school and adults are fairly well aligned.
That explains a lot. But yeah, I'm good, Daniel, if you want to start to wrap up.
Great. So, Cara, at the beginning, we said that there would be a opportunity for people to borrow an IR camera. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more about that, and
yeah,
we'll do that.
Yeah, we just have these little units. They're like, it's like a, you know, maybe a 3-inch screen. It's not a big elaborate IR camera. These are things we send into schools. But if there are folks who are on this who are interested in borrowing one of those to do some sort of an educational program, they could, I think we said they could put their details in the chat and we could get back in touch with you.
Yeah.
And there's other equipment. There's lots of equipment we have on our website that we do loan out for a small fee. And if a school doesn't have money in their budget, schools are really strapped this year, then we will figure out a way to waive the fees as well.
Cool.
So yeah, feel free to add a comment and comment to the panelists with your email address, and we can follow up with you about that. Or if you're watching this recording later, email Cara info@veep.org and she'll get you set up.
Absolutely.
Thank you
and
so
thank
much
you all
for your time. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for folks who listened in and folks who are concerned about teaching the next generation about energy.
Heck yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
And a reminder to everybody, there is a great list of DIY projects that you can get started on tonight or this weekend or next weekend, whenever you have a free moment. We've got a long, not crazy long, just a great list of DIY opportunities on buttonupvermont.org that will help you have instant returns on comfort and savings in your home. Burning less fuel to stay warm, I think everybody would love, and that's going to help you get there. And check back in at buttonupvermont.org/events for further events like this. We're doing Weatherization Wednesdays every single Wednesday at noon, but there's also a lot of other opportunities to check out more in-depth details about weatherization and tutorials and that sort of thing. So check out our events. We'll see you next time.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Daniel.
Thanks for coming, Cara.